Hey, everybody, welcome here. What a great day. Hello, Justin. Everybody, welcome here. I can see the chat is filling up. My name is Scott Bakken. I'm with Socality, and I'm here with my friend Justin Wu, and we've got a great crew with us today. We are so excited today to be hosting this event with Canon, Canon Canada, Canon USA, talking about the big product launch of the R5 C, and we are going to be walking through the exciting specs of this camera, and I'm really looking forward to it. So welcome here, everybody. We're going to be talking about how you can engage with this today. Justin, I'm really excited about this event, and I know that we've got a great crew here. We've got Ryan Snyder from Canon, and it's just great. He's going to be here answering all of our questions, and I know there's a lot. I was scrolling through the Instagram post this morning and reading all the comments and the questions about the R5C. I know there's a lot of buzz, and people are excited. How about you, Justin?
Hey everyone, I'm super excited. I actually had a chance to already test the camera out.
You got it.
I got it. I got it.
Just pull it out, no big deal.
It's an amazing camera. And hey everyone, so I'm Justin. I'm a television and commercial director and fashion photographer, and I'm really excited to host this with Scott and discuss some of the exciting camera new features, and also discuss with other experts in the field that we have here today. I'll first pass it over to you, Ryan, to discuss the camera.
Ryan, why don't you, it was a big announcement for Canon. It's exciting to see so many great products coming out. Why don't you talk to us a bit about what was announced today?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Scott. And thank you all for joining. Yeah, huge announcement this morning. We introduced the Canon EOS R5 C, which is the latest camera in our Cinema EOS lineup. Really a camera unlike anything that we've put out before. You hear the term hybrid a lot between photos and video. This camera is literally two cameras in one. So it's extremely exciting for me, coming from the video side, to finally say we have a cinema camera with amazing still capability as well. And being a cinema camera, let me just run you through a couple of the key specs here. First and foremost, the body design is essentially very similar to the EOS R5. So a very familiar kind of design, utilizing the RF mount. So you have the advantage of native compatibility with all this excellent new high-spec RF glass that's coming out, as well as a lot of adaptability with other lenses out there. Obviously our EF through adapters, but because of the flange distance, being able to adapt things like PL, you just have a huge range of lens selection with this guy. That is, projecting onto our 45 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. So right there, we have a full frame Cinema EOS camera. Spec wise, you're looking at internal cinema raw light recording at 8K resolution all the way up to 60p. You also have the good old tried and true XF-AVC codecs for up to 4K 120p, as well as MPEG-4, and all of that's 422 10-bit color sampling across the board. It's obviously a Canon camera, so we've got the dual pixel CMOS autofocus, which is just top of the game when it comes to autofocus. We got some really cool features in there I can talk about. Like I said, the body design is essentially an R5. I have it here. You'll see it extends out a little bit, and that's due to the active cooling system that's been added. So there actually is an internal cooling fan, which provides you unlimited recording time at this point. So as long as you have enough media, as long as you have enough power, you can go forever. That's recording on the CF Express and SD card slots, just like the EOS R5. You actually have a raw HDMI output for the first time on a Cinema EOS camera, so you have that workflow available to you as well. The camera features some really cool stuff for true video work, like a time code terminal, as well as the ability to utilize a XLR adapter from Tascam that will give you the ability for up to 4 channels of audio on this guy. Of course, color-wise, you're looking at a true Cinema EOS camera. So it's got the custom picture menu with Canon Log 3, hybrid log gamma, PQ, as well as standard, Rec 709 and YDR 709 profiles, like you may be familiar with the other Cinema EOS cameras. For the first time on a body style like this, you actually have real video scopes. So you've got a waveform monitor, right? No more shooting video with a histogram, relying on that. You've got a waveform monitor that you can, spot, and you can check exactly where your values are. Really helpful for when you're shooting in a log workflow. It's got false color. It's got aspect ratio markers. It's got anamorphic D-squeeze for anamorphic lenses. It'll also is compatible with the RF 5.2 millimeter dual fisheye lens, so we can get some VR action going with this guy. So that's just scratching the surface of the video features. When you flip the switch to photo, you have basically an R5 going, and so almost all of the features there. You've got, again, the full frame 45 megapixel CMOS sensor. You've got the 20 frames per second super fast shooting in electronic shutter and 12 frames per second in mechanical shutter. You've got that excellent dual pixel CMOS AF2 capability, which has your eye detect. You've got the animal AF. You've got vehicle detection tracking now. Super low light focusing capability down to -6 EV. The same accessory shoe that you find on the R3, so you can not only take advantage of our speed lights and GPS receiver, but also like I mentioned, that XLR adapter for the microphones, and of course accessories. It's compatible with the battery grip, the WFT grip, and things like that, utilizing the same LPE6NH battery. So really what you're seeing here is a Cinema EOS camera that gives you really the best of both worlds, photo and video, and all at an amazing price. We put this out for $44.99. So really, this is the first Cinema EOS full frame camera under the $15,000 price point. So it's super exciting. Yeah. Before I move on from the EOS R5 C, I just wanted to make mention that we also made an announcement about another Cinema EOS camera this morning. The EOS C70 will actually be getting a firmware update in March that will add Cinema Raw Light recording to it, which is a feature that's been very much requested from C70 users, as well as the two new recording modes for it, the frame recording for stop motion, and more importantly, interval recording for time lapse. So another great announcement for the C70.
Wow, these are some big announcements, and these and thank you for that, Ryan. What an exciting launch day! And I believe you mentioned the price, $44.99 USD, and I think for our Canadian friends, I think it's coming in around 6,100. I believe that is accurate. So that price point is absolutely incredible, and so for that, I know there's a lot of excitement, along with all the incredible features you just mentioned. But I'm excited to see this camera in action, and that's why we're here, because we have some great panelists and creators here joining us today that had a chance to shoot with the camera early on and create some dynamic content that I've been able to watch earlier on, and we're going to be featuring a bit of that. And I know the extended version of this content is available at the Canon USA and Canon Canada site, so you can go to those websites after this. Not now, because we're having this great discussion, but it's, you guys had a chance to shoot this with the camera. We've got Tier Zero. I want to introduce our guest today, and then we're going to watch a little bit of this. But for everybody in the chat room, we're going to give you some more direction later on how to engage, and we're going to be taking some Q&A at the end of this. So get ready for that. But we've got today Tier Zero. We've got Do, Charlie, and Trey. They are Toronto-based creative production agency, and they've shot for clients such as Nike, OVO, NBA, Lululemon, Reebok, and the Toronto Raptors. No big deal. So we're excited to have you guys with us today. And we've also got Keith Ladzinski and Triage Creative. Keith is a National Geographic photographer and Emmy-nominated director, along with Triage Creative team have produced work for Apple, Disney, Google, Nike, Toyota, Adidas, Oprah, and the North Face. Wow, that's pretty impressive as well. So you guys definitely would have been able to create some dynamic content with this in your hands, and so we're excited for that. So welcome here, everybody. It's good to meet you, and thanks for joining us today. And we want to get into this. And first of all, Tier Zero, how are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing great. How did you feel having this camera in your hands?
I could start.
Yeah, go for it, Charles.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the proper chain of command, how we speak to it. But regardless, yeah, the camera was. We were talking about it the other day. It when you first kind of see it, it's almost like a throwback to a camera that a lot of us started out with, except it's just like on steroids. Like some of us, like T2i, T3i was like some of the first cameras that we ever had. And then just to see the evolution and how much of a beast it is on both ends, that's kind of what stood out just right off the bat. Because you could say all the features and specs you want, but when you actually hold it, it's like, oh, it's kind of like a smaller camera than you'd expect for that many features. So that was like the first thing, just like it's just very impressive when you take in everything that is capable of doing.
Nice. And Keith, what about you guys? How are you? How did you feel with getting this camera in your hands?
I mean, extremely excited, right? From the moment we got to, when they showed up at the office here, we were really fired up. You know, it feels like an R5 in your hand with just that tiny little cooling system in the back, which adds, it's not even intrusive in any way, ultra lightweight. And you heard the specs that Ryan outlined. It's pretty ridiculous what's been packed into this. To be able to go out for a couple of weeks and really run it through its paces was very, very exciting. And what we got to shoot with it, the quality was mind-blowing. And for the work that we do at Triage Creative, this opens up a lot of new opportunities.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive in. Justin, what can our audience expect from today?
Sure. So what we can expect today is an overview of the ins and outs of the camera, a deeper understanding of some of its incredible features, continue our discussion with Tier Zero and Triage, and of course, showing you some of the video samples that they were able to come up with, which I've seen. It's really incredible. And I'll turn it over to you, Scott, to explain to the audience how they can engage today.
We love these panel discussions because it allows the audience to really engage on an interactive level and have someone like Ryan here. He is available here to answer all of your questions, and he is basically a guru and genius of all things Canon. And so we're going to really rely on you, Ryan. And so for all those watching right now, Scott. Yeah, no pressure at all. So if you are watching if you have questions, there's a Q&A feature on the bottom of your Zoom screen there. Just throw in your question there. We will be taking these questions at the end. We won't be taking them during the discussion. So in about 45 minutes, we will be taking those. So as they come to you, throw them in there. We'll be answering them at the end. Also, we love to see where everybody is. And so if you're willing, grab your phone and take a quick screenshot of your setup wherever you are in the world and take a photo and show us how you are ready for anything. And make sure you tag our friends, Canon USA, Canon Canada, and Socality, and of course our guest Tier Zero and Keith Ladzinski, and we can share that content. But we love to see where everybody is in the world, and so we're really excited for you guys to engage. And so with that, why don't we? Oh no, we're not going to watch the video yet. Over to you, Justin.
Oh no, I think we can actually start with the videos.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's great. All right, let's watch a little video here showcasing this camera in action. Let's go.
As the world pivots,
So do we.
the magic of a moment, frozen in time.
It's visual poetry.
We don't just shoot, we do art.
We are Tier Zero.
And cut!
I don't think this is it, man. Charlie, what do you think?
I'm not feeling it still.
I guess it's back to the drawing board.
So wait, what's so good about this camera again?
Well, for starters, It shoots 8K, 60p RAW, and 12-bit.
So why would we need 8K?
See what's happening right now? That's not a zoom shot. That's 8K.
And it's still so crisp. Yo, but what's that slow-mo saying?
Yo, you love slow-mo.
Slow-mo. Slow-mo. Slow-mo.
4K, 120p.
In outdoor sports, there's an invisible line crossed that separates hobbyists from the obsessed. It's a little like love. It can come out of nowhere, but in an instant, there's tactile clarity. You stop seeing things for what they are and more of what they could be. When you're obsessed, it doesn't feel like work. It's desire. Purely a DIY, whatever it takes kind of drive. It's a space where there's no arena, no court, no playing field. Only terrain. Landscapes that require interpretation, full of subtleties that read like hieroglyphs, and translated by those that speak the language.
Wow, that was some, yeah, the cheers are happening. That was some pretty dynamic content. And those are just clips of the full content that you guys were able to shoot. And so that, like I said, you can go watch that on the Canon USA site and Canon Canada. So let's dive into some questions here. I already saw people in the chat room. Can't wait to get my hands on one. People are excited, and I can see after that footage, I can see why. So let's go. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So Ryan, over to you. We're talking about here, is this the ultimate hybrid camera? I know a lot of people have been commenting on that, but talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's like I said, I almost prefer two cameras in one. And the reason I say that is literally it's the power switch. When you go into photo mode, you have this familiar experience of this amazing still camera, right? You've got the same menus that you're used to from any other Canon still camera. You've got the same user interface. You've got that quick menu where you can pull up and do touchscreen actions. Honestly, when I pick it up, I was a little nervous at first about the extra bulk on the back because of the cooling system. I don't even think about it, and it actually feels better in my hands for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm used to larger cameras, you know, from the Cinema EOS side. But it's just perfect in every way, just for me to have all that still capability, all that excellent AF capability, all that speed, you know, from the frames per second, so I can walk into pretty much any kind of situation. I've got it covered. But then I can switch into video mode, and the entire camera changes, right? So your menus go to a Cinema EOS menu. If you're familiar with the C70 menu, you're going to be right at home. I mean, it looks exactly the same. You know, same with C300 Mark III. It's designed for no compromises video shooting, and it's with that cinematographer in mind. But because you do have those absolute different experiences between, I really don't feel that there's any real compromise in operation, which is really what I love. You know, I come from the Cinema EOS, the pro video side. Whenever I go out to something, I usually carry in Pelican case. I mean, look, this is my home office / equipment room, right? This is a camera I could throw into a backpack at this point, and a lens or two, and small batteries, small chargers, and it's just a freeing experience. So yeah, when you combine the usability of it along with the beast-like specs, it really is an amazing hybrid camera.
Well, I can only speak to that. I mean, as both a photographer and filmmaker myself, just being able to use the camera and have only one camera in your bag to be able to do both has already not only saved weight, but also saved a lot of space. That's very precious in our cases. So But I'll first turn it over to our lovely friends, starting with Tier 0. So I'll throw the same question out to you guys. Do you see this as being the ultimate hybrid? And what were some of the capabilities that stood out to you while making your really cool pieces?
Yeah, like for myself, I have like a passion project called the Hustler's Cookbook, and I shoot it all by myself, and I live in a little tighter space. And the fact that it is 2-in-1, it's photo, it's video, I can switch easily back and forth. When we were doing our short film, it made the biggest difference. And even just having it in my hands, in my face, like I said, it's so small. But like I said, my hands, I'm 5'1", kind of tiny here. So it is super compact, and it was just so seamless. Like Charlie mentioned, it felt familiar, almost like the same body to T3i, what we started off with. So yeah, these beast specs, it makes a big difference.
Oh, definitely. And on to you guys, Keith, Tommy, Will.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for us, we work in a wide variety of locations, sometimes really harsh conditions, difficult to get to places. Quality and weight, they're the two things that, well, you never want to compromise quality, so often you're compromising in weight. And this camera here, when we used it, we really wanted to put it through its paces in terms of what it could be when it's really light versus what it can be when you build it out and put a fizz on it and throw a cine lens on there and put a matte box on it and work with it in sort of both confines, this, straddling that line. And truth be told, this camera is it's gonna lighten up our backpacks quite a bit, and our Pelican cases and our luggage. And that is really exciting. I mean, 8K 60p internal RAW in a camera of this size, that means a lot, for the work that we're doing. You want the highest quality if you're capturing a rare moment that you can't call for a second take on, for things that really matter. You want it to like really truly live in your archive, or be able to repurpose it somewhere else as well, be it on TV or even on a gigantic screen or whatever. You're always looking for those bigger quality sort of cameras. And this one, it's been whittled down, and it really is true hybrid in the sense that I can function as a high-end photographer with the output that this camera is giving me, and use off-camera lights and do all the things you would do as a photographer with the quality of a file as rich as a 45 megapixel file. But then also, I mean, it's already been addressed here so perfectly in that when you move over into the video realm, you are getting all the benefits of the EOS, the Cinema EOS menus and the false color. All of the things are just baked right into this camera. And those things mean so much when you're sitting there staring at a director's monitor, you're working with your DP, you're working with an FPV drone pilot. All of those things, we all need these little different tools to do our jobs. And in the past, oftentimes that meant just extra camera bodies, different camera bodies that could function in different realms. And, it's been 12 years now where cameras can shoot photo and video, but not like this. I think when you have RAW on both sides of the spectrum there, you're truly balanced. And otherwise, there's always sort of that teeter-totter of like, okay, where do we compromise, or where do we just have to bring more weight? And I think that this camera, it's eliminating a lot of those angsts that we've had to deal with over the years.
Very cool. And did I see that there was some drone footage that was featured? Maybe one of you can actually speak to that, and how are you actually able to mount this thing onto a drone?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we mounted it to an FPV camera, and people who aren't familiar with or FPV drone, and people who aren't familiar with what FPV drones are, they're essentially like a Formula One car in the air. So they're super fast, really maneuverable. You can do proximity flying at high speeds, but with that, you have a weight limit. And so typically with those type of drones, you're looking at flying smaller action cameras, but then you have to compromise with the image quality. But something with the R5 C, you can get all of those specs. You can get that 8K RAW on a drone and fly it in proximity to a mountain biker, or paragliding, or diving down a mountain at 70 miles per hour. And you just couldn't do that at that high quality with that high specs with any other cameras before.
Truly incredible. And I'll perhaps, Ryan, you can actually speak to more of the specs and the formats and the updates to the camera.
Yeah, sure. So since we're talking weight, it comes in at 1.7 pounds. I mean, it's body only. It's a lot of capability packed into a really tiny package. Yeah. So just to go off of that, one of the great things for the drone footage was the ability to do 8K in 60p. So you've got the high frame rate if you want to slow it down, which is a lot of usage in Keith's video there, but also the reframing capability as well. And being able to do that for long takes is just super cool, but also being able to have the latitude to recover where you need to and grade it appropriately. That's where the Cinema Raw Lite comes in. So Cinema Raw Lite is the top recording spec or recording mode. It has been around for several cameras now. Cinema Raw Lite captures the most dynamic range and the most resolution off the camera, and then of course you have all of that data to be able to manipulate it in grading, or like I said, correction or recovery or things like that. And the nice thing about this is you have in full frame, you've got 8K resolution, and that's full DCI 17:9 resolution. You've got in Super 35 mode, you've got a 5.9K resolution. And then you can go down to a Super 16 mode, whether for using Super 16 lenses or just to get more punch out of it. And you've actually got 2.9K at that point. Now there's 3 levels of Cinema Raw Lite. There's the HQ high quality, the ST standard quality, and the LT, which is the longer recording time, the light recording. And depending upon what resolution and frame rate you're at might dictate which you need to be at. As far as the differences between those, there's really no visual difference that I could tell throughout the entire shoot, throughout my experience with the camera. I really didn't know if I was looking at ST or LT. I knew if it was 60p, it was an LT, but that's the only way I would know it if I was looking at the metadata from the file. And so the important thing to note about this iteration of Cinema Raw Lite, being on this full frame camera, is that it's all 12-bit. So no matter what frame rate you choose, whether it's a high frame rate or standard, you're always going to be in 12-bit. So that's something new and a little bit different from our other Cinema EOS cameras, where if you went above 30 on those, you'd be going into 10-bit. So this is really amazing capabilities. Again, recording internally into a small body with that type of setup. Then you have your traditional XFABC codecs for when you want to do quicker turnaround. It's that standard MXF wrapper that's been adopted and supported in the broadcast industry forever. It just, our files just work in whatever program that you want to work in. And that gives you the ability for some crazy slow motion capability. You can go all the way up to 120 and 4K on that. Again, you have autofocus in most of your common overcrank frame rates as well. So, it's just a huge benefit for however you're shooting, whether you're on a gimbal or obviously drone. You've got that flexibility there. And having 2 card slots, you can actually mix and match the formats. If you wanted to do 8K RAW onto the CF Express card and full 4K resolution in XFABC onto another, you can do that. You can do lightweight proxy. You can choose from an endless number of combinations of, one could be like interlaced and one could be progressive. One could be a long GOP. One could be, all intra. So, you could do just audio onto a card if you wanted to, for slow and fast motion or just for standard frame rate. So basically any kind of workflow, this camera's going to be able to accommodate you.
Yeah, and this event is this event is appropriately titled "Ready for Anything," because when I hear all that you're talking about, this camera really makes you ready for anything. It feels like the world is your oyster with this. I want to talk to Keith and the team. How hard did you push it, like with this camera? Like how did you apply some of these file formats? Like when you were doing all your drone and your shooting, like how hard did you go with this camera? Talk to me a bit about your experience behind creating this content piece.
Yeah, I mean, we pushed it as hard as we possibly could in a lot of ways. Obviously we wanted to shoot some things in overcrank in 120. But I would say we leaned on 8K 60p quite a bit, specifically for, when it's action, you want the ability to slow things down. Action happens fast. And so you want to be able to sit on moments a little bit more. The ability to have a long roll is huge, right? Because there's certain moments you just simply can't anticipate. and you don't want to miss them. So it's just the safest bet is just to hold the roll and just kind of wait for that moment to evolve. Because there's also in between moments that are happening on both ends of the actual peak action as well. And not even having to consider the fact that you're not going to be able to capture a moment that could happen at any minute or any second, you know, between a long interval, or even if you're interviewing someone for a long period of time. Long roll is huge. And certainly when we were, you know, when Will was flying on FPV, you just hit record, Will takes off, and Will gets back when he gets back. There's no sort of end, you know, in and out point for start and stop. You just roll and you scrub and you find what you want sort of in post-production. And not to mention the ability, I know that Ryan mentioned grading. The color grading opportunities now here they're tremendous. And it's not uncommon to be working with multiple cameras and you talk to your DP and their white balance was just slightly different than yours, or something was off, right? Something that you're like, oh, that's going to be a nightmare later. This kind of like, this eliminates some of those angsts, things that can be a problem in the past. And if you're working with multiple cameras as well, to be able to just jam time code on something so small. And I think that's the big takeaway for me was quality and weight. And we tried to push this thing as hard as we could in every possible category. And the two mediums in which we chose, one, you know, when you're shooting mountain biking, you're on the ground, you know, gravity's on your side, you can move around pretty freely and kind of go where you want for the most part. When you get in the air with paragliding, it's not a place that you want to be heavy. It's not a place where you want a massive setup and you want a lot of stuff that's getting in the way. Changing lenses up there is like risky enough, right? You want to go in with exactly what you want, and you don't want to be up there like this because there's somebody piloting this thing behind you. You don't want to give them an elbow, right? And so there's a lot of reasons why this camera in particular, and its size and form factor and quality output, open up a lot of great opportunities that you're not going to have to drag something gigantic up into a place that would otherwise be difficult to bring in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So it's fair to say you guys really did put it to the test and you put it. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. How about you, Tier Zero? How far did you guys push it?
Man, Keith speaking gospel out here.
I know.
Answers, man. We can't even speak. No, I'm just playing. I think
we just your lines. I'm sorry. You
know? No, Keith. No. You crush it. I think we definitely took a different approach in terms of being mostly in studio. So in terms of pushing, it was more so on the workflow and collaborating with other people within short time frames. So even when we came up with the script, we're like, okay, how much can we really jam pack in here? And how many times are we going to be switching lenses? How many times are we going to be switching lights? And within the cases of switching setups with other cameras, bigger cameras to be exact, it takes, 30 to an hour just to even switch from one place to the next. And for us, we're just laughing because we're like, all right, go on to the next shot, guys. Like, let's figure it out. And in like 5 minutes, we're swooping into the next one. In terms of like that round table, we like, as much as we wanted to direct it, we were acting in it at the same time. And so it was really like a last minute call for the cam op to like make those calls super easily and, let it be faith be told. But in terms of just having them to kind of operate it themselves and like having that trust for them to kind of get the hands on the wheel, it was great. So we could be actors when we're really not. I think the testament to this camera is changing your mind frame of approaching new projects. I think you're going back to your old days of like, yo, when I used to shoot with my T3i back in the day, I was shooting this. Yo, when I was shooting with my first camera, I was taking more risks. And when it came down to like the newer cameras that come out with, not the newer cameras, but the ones that we're so used to with the bigger setups, we're like, I don't know, this is going to take another 45 minutes. Do we really want to push this? But I think when it came down to just like going back to our roots and going back home, it felt like home. It felt like going, like really allowing ourselves to let go, be experimental. And it wasn't even smoke and mirrors at this point. Like usually when you had your old first camera, you're like, I want to see how I can get away with this. When really, when you're shooting raw and you're shooting with all the capabilities and collaborating with like bigger teams, there's no smoke and mirrors. it is what it is. It's able to function, and it's able to function at a high caliber.
Yeah, there's even like a couple of the shots. Like there's one shot we had when we were literally the cam off where DP was like hanging out the window, like literally on like the highway. Not literally on the highway, but we were safe, trust. But yeah, you just can't, like you mentioned, you just can't do that with a much bulkier and bigger camera. But this was like it was not easy, but it was definitely like way more doable. And even shots, like we had so many whip pans in our film, and then we could just always trust that the focus was locked in every time we whipped. So just to add to D's point, but yeah.
Even on my end, so like working as a producer, to my ears, like, oh, what setup's only going to be 5 minutes? Perfect. You guys can get this shot done in 30. Yeah, it just made our workflow so easy, so seamless.
Actually, that's the perfect kind of segue. I'm kind of curious, now that all of you have has had a chance to experience it, build into your workflow, especially when you're creating these short spots. What are some of the new possibilities and changes in workflow that you see coming up with a camera like the R5 C? I guess we'll start off with you guys at Triage. I mean, how do you imagine using this will change your workflow down in the future, or what would you want to experiment with?
I think it's going to make post-production a bit more seamless. I think that whole analogy of sometimes you're working with, second, third, fourth camera ops that are in different locations, and there could be some kind of a reason why somebody's changed their settings to a setting that's not going to really match up in post, and it's going to give you a nightmare later. And I just love being able to shoot an 8K period, because most of our deliveries are 2 and 4K, but I love the variability of having more always. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't want more quality? But then also being able to straddle the line in the hybrid sense and take on jobs that are going to be more mixed media and be able to deliver them in the highest quality without all the weight. I think that's the big thing here for us. And also taking, sometimes the camera that you want that's going to deliver the quality that you're sort of anticipating and hoping for, they can get big quick. And so being able to throw this on an FPV and by will 7 extra minutes in the air because his battery's not being as taxed as much, or he's not having to build a custom drone that can fly something bigger and heavier, that's exciting too.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. When I was actually just testing this out, I realized that unlike most cinema cameras, you normally have to construct a rig and just to be able to operate the camera, but because it still has and maintains the same form factor as the R5, which is very easy to handhold, and of course, throw it on to say a Ronin or a gimbal, I find that certainly opens up many more possibilities, especially in terms of time. I think Trey mentioned that there are extreme efficiencies that are already naturally built in just because the rigs are smaller, you can work a bit quicker. And I've certainly felt that myself. But I mean, how about you guys, Trey, Charlie, dude? Are there any new possibilities, anything you want to try now that you've had that experience, things that you actually change in your workflow?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like there's a lot of flexibility because I think there's this notion when you get into this field, you have to be one thing and one thing only. Like, I'm just a photographer, I'm just a filmmaker, I'm just a director. And I think it allows creatives and artists to be more confident in trying a different medium and doing it within a professional manner. You don't have to be the B cam to do it. Like, you could still be A cam, but like be very transparent with your client or even your collaborator to say like, yo, this is my first time, but yeah, I've been killing it behind the scenes. So just let me show you some stuff. And I think, again, it's just comes from a flip of the switch. I think I always go back to like our first days. Like, you see these artists who are trying to figure out as photographer, they didn't know what shutter speed meant or aperture was. And they literally go through the viewfinder and like, yeah, I think this makes sense. I think this makes sense. But I think to this scale and the capabilities of this camera, it encourages education in terms of coming correct to a project, but also at the same time too, like photo goes hand in hand with video, and you don't have to be just claiming one spot or one title anymore. Like you do both, and you can do it proper. But yeah, that's just me.
That's solid.
Yeah, it's great. And then, no, and in summary, I mean, who is this camera for? If you were to kind of encapsulate that for our audiences here.
Everyone. No, to be honest, like there's so many people that a camera like this can benefit. Like the first instinct for myself is just thinking of like the world of how social media is and how there's such like a high demand for photo and video done rapidly and even done at the same time, even done by just one person. So the amount of jobs that I see of people having to do both, it's like, let's say you work for like your school team or like a professional team, or you're following like an artist or whatever it is, like anything that's run and gun, this camera is like it's kind of unbelievable, to be honest. Like you can get like the highest quality photos and then literally go to the highest quality video, and you literally just flip a switch. Like it's that easy. And it's just it's pretty unheard of. So those people who have like those, like it's for everyone, but the people who have like those hybrid jobs or even aspirations to just be able to pump out both photo and video at like premium quality, like that's who this camera is for, in my opinion.
And do you feel the same way, Keith, Tommy, Will?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think this is for someone, you can be a solely dedicated photographer and achieve everything you want out of this. You could be solely dedicated to video, cinema, vlogging, whatever your medium is within this, and maybe even social media, whatever your platform is. This is going to cover all your bases. And I think there's a lot of tools out there that could probably cover all your bases. This is going to cover all your bases at like the highest level. And so you're future-proofing everything you're shooting. You're giving all the opportunities. I think that Tier Zero made a great point with, when it's also similar when you're in cinema mode, and you're working with shutter angle instead of shutter speed, and shutter speed may confuse certain people. There's a lot of rules. You're just like, I don't even have to care. I'm going to be working with this as a cinema camera specifically. I think it levels the playing field between whatever your art is, whatever your vision is, or if you're someone like, myself and the Triage crew here, where we straddle the line and we do a lot of mixed media. And it sounds like Tier Zero is the same. It's now you have this one stop. So I think anybody out there, it sort of doesn't matter where your passion lives with your camera. Now you're getting a camera that's going to give you both at an exceptionally high level. So that kind of does make it in everybody's camera in a lot of ways. And the price point's pretty ridiculous too when you look at what you're getting for what you're paying for. It's a real home run.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really is a great camera. We're going to watch another video real quick, but before we do, we're going to move into Q&A right after this. So everybody, there's already questions in the Q&A, but if you have a question, we're going to be directing them to our expert Ryan at Canon USA, and of course our great panelist. So throw those questions in there. We're going to be jumping into Q&A immediately after this, but let's watch another BTS video shot on the R5 C by Tier Zero. Here we go.
Charlie Alpha 6-1, take one.
Mark.
I think we all have a relationship with the Canon products.
My first camera was the Canon T2i.
My 13th birthday, I saved up for my first Canon Rebel XS.
Yeah, it started with the Canon Rebel T3i.
And that was my baby.
It looks like this, but definitely didn't have the features as to what this camera has.
How would you describe Tier Zero?
Tier Zero, it's a creative agency that happens to do production. There's just that formula, right? We're sold this story that we've seen so many times. For this film, we want to kind of just do something a little bit unexpected.
People like see our work and they just see it for front-facing value, but we thought that it might be cool to give people like a deeper look into like how we actually do things. It's showing people like the process a bit more, and also turning the camera towards like our personality.
Something that involves risk And why not start with comedy, right?
Oh yeah? Oh, you got jokes?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, all right. Okay, keep it up. Keep it up before I rip that afro off your friggin' head.
So even like the workflow today was just, it went by so smooth because of how small the camera is, how easy the setup is.
It's providing more power on the follow through.
Yeah.
In terms of just like being able to like bring your vision to life the way you want to see it.
I was a bit skeptical at first. Just something where it requires a focus puller.
1, 2, 3. We have so many whip pans in this. Yeah. And like there hasn't been like the worry of missing focus just because like as soon as we whip, it's like locked into the eyes, you know?
Whew. All right, our beef broiling in there. All right, so we're just gonna let all the
We're rolling, keep rolling.
There's food all over my hands. I have to, honestly, there's always food bits on my camera. It's those little gunky, so that would definitely help in terms of keeping it rolling. You know, I don't have to stop midway.
With previous cameras, when we had to shoot 120, they had to crop it, right? With a full frame sensor, even shooting at 4K at 120, it's definitely a game changer.
For photo, I don't remember my images feeling as sharp. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's butter.
Yeah, it's
so smooth.
Super crispy.
It says a lot about how far the lens and the glasses come.
With the 422 10-bit and shooting at MP4, it allows post-production workflow to be mad quick, mad simple, and just jump in, right? Who wants to be waiting?
Imagine you had that C-Log feature. When you were doing this by yourself and coloring yourself, it would have also permitted for more opportunities on like a stronger follow-through, right?
So having that accessibility to retain that quality, even when it comes to run and gun shoots, is incredible.
Kind of small person. Whenever I have big, heavy camera gear, I find it limits me. So to have a camera like this, where it's like more compact at the same value, it really helps my workflow.
From a post-production standpoint, by shooting 8K, you can emulate a pan or even a Ken Burton zoom to add more production value when you're working on the field alone.
See what's happening right now? That's not a zoom shot. That's 8K.
And it's still so crisp. I would say I'd recommend it to the person who is interested in both, or the person who loves photos but is intimidated by video.
I think there's so many opportunities and job positions that have opened up.
I bet you any person who's watching this right now and had a job, one client had to say, hey, that's cool and all, but can you do photo? Oh, that's great and all, but can you do video? The opposite medium of what you're intended to do for that project. And that client comes back with that same question, you can confidently say yes. It means a lot, it brings me back. It brings me back home, it brings me back to why I even started in the first place.
Only take 4 hours.
So just knowing that what's being presented isn't dictated by what your camera is capable of is a nice addition in terms of just being able to go out and, you know, shoot, document, create confidently.
This guy got the one-liners, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Summarize.
Selling chocolate.
Not surprised.
Another awesome video. And Tier Zero, you guys are good actors. Highly entertaining, but at the same time, extremely informative. A great video as well. So that was fun. Like I said, you can watch the full videos at Canon USA and Canon Canada. Let's dive in. So once again, everybody throw in these great questions. We are here to answer and pull on the expertise of these amazing creators and panelists that we have with us. A lot of genuine excitement for the camera, and no wonder it is incredible. And seeing the content that has been created, we are only anticipating more content once it's in the hand of all the creators out there. And so I know Canon's eager to get it into everybody's hands. It's available for pre-order today. And at that great price, it is bound to go fast. And so let's jump in. Great questions here. And we'll start just really easy question off the top for you, Ryan. Really easy question from Helen. How's the battery life?
I appreciate the easy ones to start off with. Yeah. The battery life is, well, and I might actually pivot here, but the battery life is good. And what I'll preface this with is it really makes a difference what recording mode that you are in. So interestingly enough, if you're in cinema raw light, the power consumption is actually a little less than what you have in XFAVC. And that kind of makes sense because XFAVC actually has to do more processing to compress the video, being it is a compressed format. In cinema raw light at 2398, the figure I can give you is that you're going to get about 50 minutes out of a single LPE6NH battery. If you go into the higher frame rates, XFAVC, you could be looking, I think the worst it would do is like 30 minutes if you're in 60p 4K XFAVC. However, the camera is compatible with the battery grip that is available for the R5. If you have two LPE6NH, yeah, there you go, Justin, you got it. If you got two LPE6NH batteries in there, it actually more than doubles your recording time. So that's a nice accessory to have. Guys, I mean, I was on set with the Triage crew. I mean, I don't know, Tommy, Keith, if you have any, feedback on your experience out in the field with it.
Yeah, I mean, I found the battery life to be pretty good considering what the camera was outputting. I think that's the big thing here, right? I've used a wide variety of larger scale cameras with gigantic V mounts, and even some of those big cameras, you might get 90 minutes out of a battery that's like yay big, right? So, I mean, the camera outputs quite a bit, and for what it's doing versus what you're getting out of a tiny LP6 battery is crazy. I think that's the thing to think about, is what you're asking for the size of the battery that you have. And especially when I can put it against comparisons of other cameras and what they can do versus the size, weight, and charge time of the batteries that you have to use for them. I think that's the perspective that needs to be looked at here when you're talking about battery and what it can do personally.
Right. And I can also chime in and say that as a photo and a video user, the fact that we're using the same form factor, the same battery across the entire Canon system. I'm assuming many of you who tuned in are probably Canon users yourself. And if you're not, this is the same battery that's used across the entire lineup. And it's so easy, considering how small they are, really is this small, that I can just stash them in a pocket and really have an entire collection of batteries on you at all times. And I find that because of how compact it is, along with the charger, you can really be charging on the go and have so many batteries. I actually went and did a commercial shoot recently that lasted maybe 7 to 8 hours. Not filming continuously, but we are, doing setups, we're filming, we're rolling for about maybe 3-4 minutes at a time. And yeah, I think I had 3 to 4 batteries. I only went through 3 of them, both of which were actually already in here. So generally speaking, the battery life is more than sufficient. And if you, again, have a past Canon camera, you can use those batteries in the same system.
I think another point that's, you can't overlook is, especially for the people that we're looking at for, target customers, such as doc shooters and, multimedia journalists, wherever you are in the world, there's going to be a camera store that has these batteries as a replacement, and that might not be the case with other types of batteries. The camera is also very flexible as far as power as well. We do have the USB C port on the camera, which you can use our PDE-1 USB charger, so you can get additional power that way. We have a new DRE6C coupler, which is essentially that dummy battery that fits into the grip, and that is powered by our CA946 AC adapter. So you've got 2, plug-in options. You can also run off of the, a power bank, such as the Anker Power Core 26800 plus the PD delivery device. And then, of course, there's Anton Bauer cables that, adapt from PTAP into our, DRE6C coupler. So, you can really, adapt the way that you need to. I know on the Triage shoot, we had some Anton Bauer batteries that we were using. Heck, we even, chopped off the end of one cable and soldered it for the drone connection for Will. And that's the way we were powering the AK60 on that. So, I mean, it's, there's a lot of options there.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. I guess throwing on to another question. This one comes from Samuel Mendes from Brazil. Did the still photography specs had any change. The video specs boost has compromised something in the still side. To my knowledge, I don't think so. I've used the camera already for stills, and it's just the same, if not better, because now you have the video features. But Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, there is one change, and that's the camera doesn't feature in-body image stabilization. So for still shooting, any stabilization is going to be handled by your lens with IS. We were given a official reason for that, but we were told it was to mitigate heat. So there's one change on the still side of things, and that's it. But otherwise, yeah, you've got the amazing capabilities of the EOS R5 in every other regard. The AF system has been called a cheat code by some of my clients, and that's the way I think of it. It's just fantastic with that great file size as well.
Getting a lot of great questions in here. Also, if you have questions specifically for Tier 0 or Triage, make sure you throw them in as well. When you have such great resource available to you, make sure you're using it. And a lot of questions coming here, Ryan, about weather. Trevor's saying, for someone who takes a camera up into the alpine zone in harsh environments, both photo and video, will this camera be able to handle snow, rain, high winds? And a lot of people asking this kind of question.
Sure. So as far as dust proof and moisture resistance, this camera is equivalent to the C70 in that regards, which is, I've seen some C70s get really abused with snow packed into them and ice and rain and things like that. The nice thing about the active cooling system is that it is isolated from the sensor board. And so, any dust or moisture that actually makes its way into that pathway, it's not getting to any of the internal components. So you can feel very, very confident that the gaskets and that sealing is going to do its job. Obviously, the rule of thumb is if it's too wet and cold for you to be without a jacket, it probably is for the camera as well. But again, just seeing the torture tests that some people have done on a C70, I'm really confident with this. As far as operating temperatures, obviously it's the same as the EOS R5 when it comes to that, which has a huge range. Just keep your batteries warm when you're up in that cold environment.
I'll answer a quick question here. This is actually a good one, which was already answered by Paul, but I think it's quite valuable as I actually have personal insight. So the question comes from Thiru, who asked, with the camera body being bigger compared to the R5, how are the ergonomics of handling the camera and reachability of the buttons on the backside? I actually have to say it's even better. The reason is because I think that the R5 is an amazing camera, and we all know that because of the fact that it's mirrorless and so compact. But now that you actually have the extra bit in the back, I find that it's actually even easier on the wrists because you actually feel it being slightly more balanced from the heavy lens in the front and the slightly extra weight in the back. Now, I'm not saying the camera is much heavier. In fact, it's not. It's just, in fact, in your hand, it would actually feel almost identically the same, if not even better, from my point of view.
Very good. Yeah, so with that, some more questions coming up here. Ryan, this is probably another question for you. Sorry, I'm directing it to you. Am I frozen, by the way? Do I look frozen?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm frozen on what I'm seeing, but okay. What SD cards will you be recommending for use with the higher bit rate? Any suggestions there? What's the official Canon?
Yeah, for SD cards, we're recommending V90 cards, and that is to accommodate the higher frame rate recording to slow and fast motion, especially. With the V90 cards, what's really nice is you can record any resolution of XF ABC up to 60p. So if you just need that quicker turnaround time, that easy to use XF ABC codec, you're good with SD cards. You can also record any of the Super 16 Cinema Raw Light modes to the SD card as well. Essentially, the magic number there is around If you go into a recording mode that is over 650 megabits per second, then it's going to be too much for the SD card. But as long as you got that V90 card, you should be good to go for most of those situations. And of course, you can check on our website for a full spec list, and it lists all the different recording modes with all the different bit rates and frame rates and things like that.
Wonderful. And one more question for you, Ryan. Is there any improvement in low light performance over the R5?
It is the same sensor. The sensor has been optimized for video and the Cinema Raw Light and XFAVC codecs. So I believe that the low light capability will be very much on par. What I will say is that with the Cinema Raw Light and Canon Log 3 and being able to go into Canon Log 2 in post, you'll be able to actually get an additional stop in the shadows there. So that does provide some additional flexibility and latitude, I would say. Another interesting point is that the camera features a dual native ISO or dual base ISO for the first time on a Canon camera. So you do have the upper range if you're in Canon Log 3 and you wanted to switch into 3200 as a base. You'll get that noise cleaned up and you'll just be starting in that higher ISO range. So in that regards, yeah, probably some more enhanced low light capabilities.
Nice. Someone is asking about the built-in audio. Sorry, all these questions I'm directing to you, Ryan. Any insight about the audio, built-in audio?
Yeah, so it's got the mono scratch mic on it, just like most other of the mirrorless cameras. And then you've got the 1/8 inch stereo jack that we've always had. So you do have stereo input with manual audio capability. The big deal there, of course, is then being able to attach that. I actually have one, the Tascam adapter onto the new multifunction shoe. And what this will give you is two full-size XLR/TRS combo ports here, and that'll also give you phantom power, as I said, manual or audio leveling, attenuation, limiter, all of that good stuff. And then when that's connected, it can either power off of the camera itself, or it does have AA batteries, which you can save some of the camera battery and power it locally. So this actually, now you go into the Cinema EOS audio menu, and now you have all of the options in there for your 4-channel. So it's a really nice piece as far as an audio recorder.
A great question also came in from Jeff Dockham, and he asks, will this camera be a Netflix approved camera? To my understanding, it's getting close to it because there is now a time code port, which is needed for most reality shows on Netflix. But that's to my knowledge. Perhaps Ryan can speak to that.
Yeah, the Netflix Post Technology Alliance does require the time code, so we're there with that. We don't have any comment on that right now. We have approached them. We expect certification. Certainly all the specs meet their requirements, so we'll have to update you on that.
Just for show, can Ryan or Justin hold up your camera and just show them the button that goes from photo to video, because I think that's so cool for people to see. Literally
on the same plane.
There you go.
Yeah.
Come on, get as close. Yeah. It's literally like such a huge feature, just literally photo to video. I think that's super cool for everyone just to see the ease of how you can go from an R5 to basically a cinema camera. That is
something I didn't mention as far as that goes. All of the buttons are labeled. They actually have 2 labels on them. So whatever is actually on the button itself is what the default photo mode utilizes. What's written on the outside is what the video uses by default. But there's 13 assignable buttons, and between the customization of these buttons and the direct touch menu, you can really make this thing, just hum for your particular application. I know that, Tommy, we had like slow and fast motion assigned, up here on the, these buttons up here, and
brilliant.
Able to switch in and out of that like no problem, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, this has been an exciting panel. I know for me, I'm genuinely excited about this camera. I think a lot of people are so pumped to get their hands on this. I mean, seeing the content that has been created from Tier Zero and Triage, incredible, insane content, just enjoyable to watch, just first of all. So I want to encourage everybody, if you want to jump on Canon USA and Canon Canada, check that out. The camera is available for pre-order today. And at that price point, I know it's going to go fast. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. This has been an incredible launch day and a lot of exciting news. And yeah, it's really great. Parting words, Ryan, from you.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining and spending some time with us. It's a real honor to be able to introduce this beast to the camera and chat with you about it. And as always, now comes the fun part for me. I get to stop looking at it as like this device and start looking at all of the amazing content that's going to be created with it. Right. And just thank you and congratulations to both Tier Zero and Triage on 2 amazing pieces.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Triage, Keith, and team, and Tier Zero. Congratulations on the wonderful content. Thank you, Justin, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you send a screenshot. We want to see what your world looks like, and make sure you let everybody know that you are ready for anything. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we'll have a good day. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.